Hi there, people of the internet. I decided my first video on this, as it's currently very relevant, will be on the process I'm currently going through to apply for employment support allowance, personal independent payments, which are ultimately going to become universal credit that is so spoken about at the moment. I suppose it's for the story's sake, it's good to establish when this all began. I have worked my entire adult life. I had my first full-time job at 16. I worked evenings, went to school during the day. I worked through any periods of education I was going through, further education, so college, university. I have had 2, maybe 3 spells in hospital, very short spells, for physical ailments, but nothing that related to the health I'm about to speak about. So I've had a very this will make sense soon enough. So I've had a very contributory I've made a great deal of contributions to what I would consider the welfare state. Not that I believe that there has to be a payoff in and out, but I spent my life paying into it. Around 5 years ago, I became not very well. I have Asperger's and ADHD. I have a major depressive disorder, socialized and generalized anxiety disorder. And I've never relied on any external assistance for those things, really. I've always tried to manage through my own steam. It's what my parents taught me. You get on with what you've got and how things are, and you make the very best of it. But about 5 years ago, at the end of a relationship, my health slowly started to fall apart. And at the same time, I then started having some quite serious back issues. But as I previously said, it was our nature to plough through until the beginning of this year. Things got bad enough for my mental health. Hadn't been maintained particularly well, be it by myself or be it by the medications that I was put on, or the lifestyle I had, or for a multitude of reasons. The short of it is my health fell apart, and I overnight wasn't able to work. And I had a certain amount of savings. I had been intending to do postgraduate study, more greater. I had intended to do further academic postgraduate study, so I had some money saved up. It lasted maybe 4 months, because it's to replace a full-time wage. to allow me to pay my mortgage, my utility bills, feed myself and my dog, and just try and maintain something of a life. So by around about March, April, I had pretty much ran dry. So it became apparent I had no other choice but to apply for welfare benefits. That was the start of April. In the start of May, I think May the 11th it might have been, I received notification that I would be placed onto the base level of ESA, which is £73 a week. I was informed that at some point in the future, near future, I would have to go for a work capability assessment, which would then decide whether I should remain on that benefit and be made to go to work clubs, I guess they're called, or whether that I would get higher tiers of ESA assistance that is, I guess, particularly geared towards disabled people. So at the beginning of May, today was supposed to be my work capability assessment. So May, June, July, August, September, October, so 6 months I have been managing on £73 a week. It is slowly but surely making my health worse. I'm not getting better. The idea of not working was to allow myself to focus on my health and to try and improve my health enough and my circumstances enough that working without my disability or abilities or lack thereof becoming a problem. I then, lots of these pauses are symptomatic. I've had a day of it. So the idea, it's been hard existing on that £73 a week. So I'm not at any stage where I could come off that, I don't believe. So today my work capability assessment was at 9:20. The letter that comes to tell you that your appointment's due tells you that you need to be there 10 minutes early, because they have to keep to a diary. So that meant I had to be in there for 9:10, and all the meds that I take every morning, they take a couple of hours to settle in. So I would have to have been awake and have had breakfast by 7 a.m. at the very latest, to allow for the time for my meds to have settled in, and for me to be able to be fairly coherent and able in the assessment. So this morning at 8:30 I left I left the house. As I mentioned, I have back issues, so I walk with a stick. Excuse me. I left the house. I walked because I had to walk. I had no choice in the matter to walk to get public transport. Managed to get myself in there. Meanwhile, not being on any of my my mental health meds or any, even just ibuprofen for my back. I had nothing. I didn't take anything at all. So my anxiety levels were fairly high. I find it quite difficult usually to go to these types of things like most people do, but it feeds further into my disabilities, so it has a greater impact. So I got myself in there for 9:10, which I was fairly pleased by. On arrival at the assessment centre, I went to, I suppose what they would check in, and the gentleman at the counter told me that there was a delay this morning on their diary, so I would probably be waiting an extra 30 to 40 minutes. With no explanation as to why there was a delay, or my appointment was 9:20, and the place opens at 9 o'clock, so I don't see how they could have already have been delayed. So I was asked to wait further. So I waited, and 45 minutes passed, and then the gentleman came out again and said somebody hasn't turned up for their, one of the assessors hasn't turned up, so it would be another 20 to 30 minutes wait. So by that point, it's 10:15. I've been in there for over an hour. I haven't taken any of my meds. One major symptomatic factor of my Asperger's is I find it really difficult when plans get changed, particularly plans that I view as important or necessary or high in a list of priorities. So I had to manage that change in the environment, and it's hard managing that change when I'm in my own environment. It's even worse when it's out in the world. So 10:15, and there was just no sign of, nobody had appeared. There was no communication as to why it was taking so long or as to what the delay was. So I went to the desk to ask again, and was told that it would maybe be another half an hour. And by that point, it just starts to feel like an indefinite wait in some kind of purgatory, where you're on the precipice of being assessed, or if you want to use more volatile language, you're being judged, or you're sitting waiting to be judged on something that then decides your life, it decides your future, it decides your ability to take part in society. So when offered with an indefinite wait, I said to the gentleman that I couldn't just sit around, and he told me I was free to leave, but it would not having turned up for my assessment. I explained to him that I hadn't taken my meds, as to why I hadn't taken my meds. I explained why I found it difficult, and there's this rule with ESA is you get to cancel or change one appointment. It's a one and done situation. If you don't do the second one, then you're off the system. So I managed to get a second appointment made at the expense of my free strike, I suppose. In 2 weeks' time. So I have to go through all this again in 2 weeks. My claim decision will get pushed on down the road into November. Universal credit rollout in where I live is happening. We were one of the first areas that they decided to try it out on. The rollout is due to end in November. So if I'm not on ESA before November, then the intention will be to have me on universal credit, which will be less than I would get on ESA at the moment. The most that I would get, I think, is £104 a week. Universal credit, regardless of what level I'm at, will be less than that. So I received a new appointment at the expense of my free strike. It's at the end of the month, so we're 2 weeks later. That gets pushed on 2 weeks down the road, and it leaves you. I'm exhausted. I've lost a whole day to nothing. And there was no regard for myself or for people who suffer similarly to myself. No, what they call in equality and discrimination law as reasonable adjustments. There were no reasonable adjustments made to try and accommodate the response that I may have had for whatever reason. Had I just not turned up or been an hour and a half late, chances are I would have been bumped out of the queue. Or if you don't turn up to your work group meetings at the correct time, you then get sanctioned. But a healthcare professional, as they're called, can rock up late to work. The person they're due to assess has had to leave. They get then an extra hour to themselves, and it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. The whole process till now seems to be built on demoralising people. It's built into making people just want to give up on it. And some people will give up and will find themselves being employed in ways that perhaps aren't good for them, or isn't right for them, isn't enough for them, isn't proper for them. For any millions of reasons, some people just have to take a job that the government then claim as a reward or as a result for their figures and budgets. And I know that this is very much a broken record that is heard a lot at the moment. It concerns me that the noise that we're hearing about universal credit right now only started being focused on when it was affecting working people. As if the ill and disabled are just, we should just be thankful that there's something there, and beggars can't be choosers. It sucks really, really badly. I could pontificate about it, but no manner of intellectualizing the process makes it better. It doesn't change it. It doesn't help us. So rather than there being a delay on universal credit, it just needs to stop. The benefit system needs to go back to being socially just, to allow people to live at the same standard as somebody who is more able. If I was to go through this assessment and to be found capable for work, I'm not. I don't know what I do. I'm terrified by that prospect of being a 36-year-old man who just can't survive. So I suppose the reason for this video would be to hear it from the horse's mouth. This is what it's like. I have a roof over my head at the moment. I have food in the fridge. I'm just terrified that it gets taken from me, and as somebody who has mental and behavioural disabilities, having been forced out into the world against my will with no safe place, that's not a good future for anyone, and I know it would be bad for me. So if you're an activist or a member of a community, or even someone in the political machine somewhere, and if you hear the words welfare state and universal credit being mentioned, remember, this isn't about, the focus should never be on changing the system to prevent those that may cheat the system from doing so. The system is meant to be first and foremost there to allow a life for people who have no other means of creating that life for themselves. So yeah, from one disabled ESA claimant to the whole internet, if you can fight for us, because we can't do this by ourselves. Okay, I have to go take some sedatives now and probably sleep the hangover of this whole day off. So, peace out, rise up, and be good to each other. Bye.